Casino.
And welcome to a special edition of the End Zone, the Oklahoma City Thunder playoff edition of the End Zone. I am Colby Daniels. Joining us from 24/7 Sports is Josh Calloway. Josh, chaos in Denver from start to finish. I think everybody in the state of Oklahoma has got to be grabbing their chest, hoping they don't experience another one like that. But at the end of the day, it's now a 2-2 series. It's a best of three as Game 5 comes back to OKC on Tuesday.
Insane game. One of the most hideous first quarters of basketball I think anyone's ever seen. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I mean, Thunder, they had to find a way just to get this thing even back to OKC. Didn't matter how it looked, how pretty it was. They found a way to do it, and they did it. And now it feels like they're kind of maybe back in control coming back to Oklahoma City.
And a good win, I think, considering it was ugly, right? Sometimes in the playoffs you have to find gritty ways to get wins, and that's a big notch in the belt of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Well, that was the main question, right? Is could they win a close game, right? Over the course of the season, nobody played less close games than the Thunder. And Game 2, obviously, they won by 1,000,000 points. So could they grind out a close one, especially on the road? Got our answer a little bit today. They stepped up when they needed to down the stretch, which is a great sign moving forward.
Absolutely. We'll jump more into the game, but first we got to check in with Christina Santiago, who is at Fassler Hall. Christina, I would imagine it was complete chaos from start to finish watching this Thunder game, and Thunder fans have to be over the moon.
I mean, I'm super excited. I wore my Lucky Thunder jersey, courtesy to our producer, Noah, back in Tulsa. And I mean, as you look around me, it is a bit empty, but it was full as once Fassler Hall turned into Thunder Hall, and everyone was just at the edge of their seat, even standing on these benches behind me, getting into the momentum of what was going on. But anyway, everyone is saying that they're going to be bringing that momentum back to Oklahoma City once they come back to try to just, stir up that winning momentum. Back to you, Colby.
So Game 5 in OKC on Tuesday night. We'll jump into the rest of the series. It's a best of three now a little bit later. But we got to talk about what happened today, because it was a game that we knew the Thunder needed to win to get the home court advantage back in this series. And it was tied for the worst scoring first quarter combined in playoff history, Josh. 25 points between the two teams. At one point, they had a combined 1 of 32 from downtown. They just struggled shooting, both teams, the ball throughout the game. I know that it heated up a little bit later in the game, and both teams went through stretches where they were able to find buckets. But I think collectively, over the course of the entire game, it was just an ugly ball game.
Yeah, to say the least. Yeah, neither team could hit a three, and for Oklahoma City, that really continued throughout the entire game. I mean, the starting five, Lou Dort hit a couple, but obviously rough day for him offensively. SGA got a couple to go. That was it for the starters. Jalen Williams couldn't get anything to fall. Chet Holmgren couldn't get anything to fall. The bench guys really stepped up today, and in particular, Aaron Wiggins and Cason Wallace as well. Alex Caruso did his thing, but those two, Wiggins and Cason Wallace, for a stretch there in the fourth quarter, they were a reason that the Thunder stayed in this game as it went along. So even though some of the starters didn't play great today, SGA did his thing a little bit more down the stretch. The bench was able to pick the Thunder up, and like you said, what was a pretty ugly game for the most part.
As ugly as it was early in the game, the Thunder didn't play well. The Nuggets played worse, though, right? I mean, the Thunder had a big lead, and it felt like had the opportunity to really take this game similar to what happened in game number 2, and they just kept missing opportunities and allowing Denver to stay in this game despite Denver's complete ineptness at times. You get to halftime, and the game is much closer than it felt like it should be, and at that point, Denver, 49% of their points had been scored from the free throw line. I don't know how many Thunder fans at halftime felt great about what had happened over the first two quarters.
I mean, the first quarter alone, you mentioned earlier, lowest scoring ever. Denver had 8 points in the first quarter. That is an insane number that you never think you're going to see.
In 2025.
Yeah, in modern day NBA.
It may never happen again.
The Thunder only up 9. I mean, it was still a game at that point. Like you said, still competitive, certainly into the half and throughout the entire day, despite the Nuggets not able to get anything going. That's the one thing I think you can take from this if you're the Thunder, is that they have seemingly found a way to bother Nikola Jokic, which is seemingly an impossible task. But this is 2 days in a row, and granted, he got a little more scoring today, but he still is not, rolling like the Nuggets fans are used to seeing. There is still, I think, a lot to be happy with what the Thunder are doing defensively. Denver is just, it's not flowing for them offensively either, and just today the Thunder were able to find a way just to get a few more plays down the stretch, and that's the difference sometimes in these kind of nip and tuck playoff games.
There were still stretches, I think, tonight where the half-court offense looked stagnant.
Oh, yeah.
Looked like everything was hard, right? Nothing comes easy. This is a game that you love to win, a game where you don't play your best, right? That's the mark of a champion. You see it every year with the eventual NBA champion. They have multiple games in a playoff run, that they find ways to win when they don't have their A game. That's something the Thunder did tonight. I don't know that it eases necessarily the anxiety for Thunder fans in terms of what the half-court offense is, though.
No, I think that's completely fair. It's not like you're coming out of this game feeling much better, frankly, about the offense in general. But, again, when you're playing defensively the way they are, and at least unlike in Game 3, they were able to close with some, this time SGA, you saw him get to the bucket, get to the free throw line. Jalen Williams, same thing, get down the lane and get a nice dunk there down the stretch. Made their free throws down the stretch. Just stuff that they just simply didn't do in Game 1 or Game 3 that cost them. You saw them do it this time. They were able to put the game away, which is a very encouraging sign, because you're not going to be able to blow everyone out every game. You're going to have to find a way to win close games and close out good teams that are still trying to battle back at the end.
And especially, I think, with the offense and settling sometimes for difficult shots at the end of the shot clock, or when you're facing a tough defense. To your point, I think they were much more aggressive in getting to the bucket and at least trying to take higher percentage shots or maybe get to the free throw line down the stretch. We'll see how that continues to evolve throughout this series. That is Josh Calloway. I'm Colby Daniels. We'll take a timeout. We're going to spin it forward, look at these final 2 to 3 games in this series. Should be a fun Game 5 in OKC on Tuesday night. Back in a moment here on the End Zone. The Thunder win a thriller, 92-87, along with Josh Calloway. I am Colby Daniels, breaking everything down, the good, the bad, and the mostly ugly from Game 4 in Denver. We talked about the game, I think, in terms of what the next 2 or 3 potentially look like. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's now, you wipe off everything that's happened in this series to this point, right? It's a 3-game series. Potentially 2 games in Oklahoma City. Game 5 on Tuesday night. Game 6 will be in Denver on Thursday night. And if it goes 7, you got to wait until this time next week, next Sunday, for a Game 7 in OKC, which would be an incredible atmosphere. But first, Game 5, and I don't know the percentage. I didn't have a chance to look it up right before we started the show, but there's a percentage where I think in 2-2 series, the team that wins Game 5 goes on to win the series over 80% of the time, which proves how pivotal Game 5 is in a 7-game series.
It's everything, right? I mean, the winner of that one, you're feeling phenomenal moving forward. The Thunder, you wonder just how they're going to kind of handle, I guess, the pressure. Who's the pressure on going into Game 5? Because on one hand, it's like if Oklahoma City loses, it's going back to Denver with them a chance to close it out. But for the Nuggets, they feel like they got to flip it back. So how do the Thunder handle the opportunity to really put their vice grip back on it and know that at worst case scenario, you're getting that Game 7 back in Oklahoma City, no matter what happens, obviously, in Game 6. So how do they kind of just handle getting back at home? Obviously, so far, they should have won Game 1 at home and played fantastic in Game 2 at home. So I think you probably got to like your chances overall if you're the Thunder coming back in front of the home crowd.
I thought the pressure was very much on OKC in Game 1 or Game 2 after Denver stole home court advantage, and they responded to that in an incredible way. Game 4, I thought the pressure then flipped back to OKC after Denver won Game 3. I don't necessarily love the way that they responded tonight, but they found a way, right?
Right.
Like, there was a point in the third quarter where all of a sudden they're down by like 7-8 points. It just kind of felt like Denver started making
slipping
shots.
Away.
The avalanche was starting, and you didn't know if that was going to be it. And they're able to fight back. I think that gives them a ton of confidence. Denver now has to win at least one on the road if they're going to win this series. So I think the pressure has very much swung back to Denver going into OKC on Tuesday. All that said, there's got to be some sort of pressure on OKC simply because they're getting everything they wanted, and there are still a lot of elements about playoff basketball that they're struggling with.
No doubt. And like the point we were making earlier, it's not like the offense was fantastic today. Right. Quite the opposite. It was really a lot of the same. It just was better down the stretch. I mean, they were in position to win in Game 3, and just the last couple minutes of regulation and then overtime, it was just heinous offensive basketball. It was much better this time around. Still not great, but better to go with what they're doing defensively right now. So I agree. I think you have to feel pretty good getting back in front of the home crowd. And we were talking about it earlier. It's funny. I mean, you kind of blew Game 1. Game 3, you were in position. I mean, and you won the other 2. So, from that perspective, you should still feel confident. But I don't think we've heard the last from Denver, at least making this interesting. You know, the next couple of games. It's not going to be easy, that's for sure. The Thunder, even though they're coming back home.
For as many struggles as they've had, this series could be over. Very easily, right? You should have won game one.
Absolutely should have won
game one. You collapse in game one and give that one away. You dominate game two. Game three, you got to give Denver a ton of credit for what they did in the fourth quarter and especially overtime, but you have a lead in the final 30 seconds of the game in game three, and it still slips away, and then game four, you go find a way to win. I mean, this could easily be a sweep, despite how competitive these games have been, all of them except for game number two.
Yeah.
That said, you just can't have them giving away games, right, in the fourth quarter. Like, I know the offense hasn't been great, and that's okay. You can still win games that way. You just can't give the opponent extra opportunities.
No doubt. And I think a huge key for the Thunder, not even necessarily in this series, I mean, in this series certainly, but if they're going to go the distance, which is the goal, right? That's where the goal is for this Thunder team. They need their stars to play better.
That's
I mean,
right.
SGA was kind of, he started off okay, was kind of hit or miss, finished well. Jalen Williams was bad in this game today. He had 2 points until the very end there, made some nice plays down the stretch. Chet Holmgren didn't play great today. Now, those two guys were much better in game three, whereas SGA didn't play well. Like, put it all together, and when that happens to go with this bench that's so deep with the way they play defense, they're borderline impossible to beat. But right now, the stars, that big three, it's been kind of a moving target of who's playing well at one time. They haven't all quite put together, really, other than game two, when they won by 50.
When everybody scored, right? All 14 Thunder players scored. I think 8 of them were in double figures. It went right for everyone in game two. But to your point, Shea was great in game one. The other two of the big three trio weren't good. Game three, it was the opposite with Dub and Chet playing well, Shea not as well, and then it flips back again tonight. So you need at some point these close games to get consistency out of all three of the big players. Now, the Thunder's, I think, biggest asset is their depth, and that's why I feel like they're the best team in the NBA, and that showed tonight with Case and Wallace and Wiggins and players that maybe picked up some of the slack for J-Dub and Chet. All right, we'll take another timeout. That is Josh Calloway. I'm Colby Daniels. We will get more post-game reaction next here on the End Zone. Welcome back to the End Zone, special edition, as the Oklahoma City Thunder have tied the Western Conference semifinals 2 games apiece with the Denver Nuggets. Once again, Game 5 scheduled to tip off at 8:30, another late tip-off in OKC, 8:30 Tuesday night at the Paycom Center. And I know Thunder fans are going to be absolutely electric at 8:30 when that thing tips off, now a best of 3. Along with Josh Calloway, I am Colby Daniels. It's been a crazy 4 games. You have the one blowout. You have a couple of fourth quarter overtime collapses by the Thunder. You have the gritty win. They've experienced a little bit of everything, right? I think the biggest criticism of this team coming into this postseason is the lack of playoff experience. They're getting a taste of lots of different postseason flavors at this point. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander spoke on ABC following the game and talked about just, I think, the overall idea of one game completely shifting a series.
Yeah, we didn't want it to be a third, as simple as that. As long as we keep getting better throughout the series, we should be in a good spot. Every game is do or die in the series against a really good team. One game can shift the complete control of the series, and we've realized that. So yeah, every game here on out, and the past 4 have been do or die. We keep that mentality.
There you go. He says the past 4 have been do or die. We got to keep that mentality. It's like that's something you already know, I think, going into the postseason, but you have to somewhat experience it, I think, to really like comprehend the depth of how every single possession is do or die. That's why Alex Caruso plays the way that he does, right? Every loose ball, he plays every possession like that possession is ultimately going to determine whether you win or lose, and that's the approach you have to have in the postseason.
I almost brought up Alex Caruso in the last segment because we were talking about everyone kind of being a little inconsistent. He's really the one guy who hasn't been. Alex Caruso has been huge. He's been exactly what I think Sam Presti and the Thunder thought he would be bringing him in. Kind of to your point, that veteran guy who's played in the postseason. He's an older guy. He's the oldest guy on the team, right? He's been in these spots before. His effort and his ability to just make things happen. Yeah. He's hitting some threes in this series as well. Like, his value really can't be overstated. He has been huge. And you can even see, like, his veteran presence making an impact with the way he kind of picks guys up and he's kind of clapping toward the bench. Yeah. That stuff makes a difference in the course of a playoff series. And his veteran leadership has been huge for this team. They've really needed it.
Well, when you think about the Thunder's best players, and we talked about the Thunder trio, the big 3 in the last segment with J-Dub, Chet, and obviously the MVP SGA, you can make the argument that throughout this entire playoff run so far in the first 2 rounds, Alex Caruso's probably been the second best player overall. And if you're talking about who are the Thunder's best 5 players, Alex Caruso is in that group.
No doubt. And we were talking about it a little bit watching the game. I mean, obviously, Lou Dort, you don't want to undervalue what he's done for this team over the course of the season. But right now, with the way his shot is not falling, it's like, man, get Alex Caruso in the game more, especially down the stretch with what he's given them on both ends of the floor, especially if he's going to be hitting his shots. If he's going to hit a couple threes for you, it's a no-brainer. His impact and his value is just so high. He's been tremendous. And like you said, as important to anyone to what the Thunder have done so far, Alex Caruso right up there with SGA, anybody.
Absolutely, just finding ways to impact the game, even if it's not hitting a three, just loose ball, right?
Oh,
anything.
Constantly. He's in every passing
all
lane.
over
He's
the place.
everywhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take one more time out and wrap up the show on the other side of the break. That's Josh Calloway. I'm Colby Daniels. Game 5 back in OKC. We're back on the End Zone. Thunder win 92-87 and even the Western Conference semifinals, 2 games apiece with the Denver Nuggets. Game 5 in Oklahoma City on Tuesday night, along with Josh Calloway. I am Colby Daniels. Josh, final thoughts on the Game 4 win and what you're expecting / keys to winning this 3-game series, best of 3, starting Tuesday.
Yeah, look, it wasn't pretty, but at the end of the day, they played much better down the stretch. SGA was much better down the stretch than he was certainly in Game 3. And I think you have to feel pretty confident coming back to Oklahoma City if you're a Thunder fan in Game 5, if they can continue to bother Nikola Jokic. And, you know, today he had 27, but it wasn't a very efficient 27. If they continue to bother him, I just don't know if the Nuggets, the rest of their offense, is good enough to beat the Thunder. I mean, tonight, Michael Porter Jr., not nearly the game that he had in Game 3. Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon were a little bit slower, too. Make the other guys beat you, and I think you're going to be okay.
Just don't give Aaron Gordon any open threes, and you might be okay.
Yeah.
That might be devastating. But I think your point is spot on. Nobody else, you have that fear that they're going to be able to take over a series. And as this series goes on, the Nuggets only play 7 guys. They were in a 7-game series in round 1. I think that the depth of this Thunder team is really going to be a factor as this series goes on. It was probably a factor down the stretch today, and it's probably going to be a factor in games 5, 6, and potentially 7 if it goes that far. All that said, you can't make mistakes and give Denver extra opportunities, right? This is a team with championship pedigree, and you're trying to find that if you're the Thunder, but giving a group full of champions extra chances when you have the opportunity to close the door is a recipe for disaster.
No doubt. They have to be a little better on the boards. It was better today. It was about even. They're better on the boards, and they can, like they did in Game 2, force turnovers, get out in transition. Like you said, the depth. The Nuggets, they looked very wiped at the beginning of this game. Thunder did too, frankly, in that first quarter. But the depth and the quick turnarounds after these games, that should play in the Thunder's favor. So that's a big one for me too, is, you know, just kind of utilizing the depth, getting out, forcing turnovers. That should be a big help. 92-87 Thunder win Game 5 on Tuesday night at the Paycom Center. We'll be there with all of your coverage. Should be a ton of fun. And for Josh Calloway, I'm Colby Daniels. This has been a special edition of The End Zone.